retired. So please welcome to the stage, Kevin McKinley.
Hi, how are y'all doing? Good. Oh, it's bright out there. My mother's 88 years old. She's here tonight. Give her a big hand. So you gotta be nice to me. A little bit about myself. I've been married to the same woman for 35 years. Best decision I ever made. It hasn't been all rose petals and Earl Grey though. I said to her the other day, I said, honey, I'm thinking about getting my ears pierced. She goes, well, while you're at it, why don't you braid your hair? I said, honey, my hair's not long enough to braid. She said, well, the hair in your ears is. Some of you guys might recognize me from the 7-Eleven up the street. I don't work there, but my wife makes me use their bathroom when she cleans ours. Just until the new bathroom smell wears off, you know. So these days when I get ready to go out, my wife calls me in to take a look at me. Checks out what I'm wearing, asks me where I'm going, what time I'm gonna be home, makes sure my fly's up. And I say, honey, don't you think I can take care of these things myself? She goes, well, you can, but if I have to call the police and report you missing with a silver alert, these are all the questions I'm gonna have to answer. I came back from my walk the other day and she said, how'd it go, honey? I said, well, I didn't shit myself. And she said, well, does that happen very often? I said, no, but sometimes the last couple blocks I gotta do that Charlie Chaplin walk, you know? At my age, about all the exercise I get is walking. And the most serious injury you can get from walking is chafing. And so I use some baby powder to take care of that. And also at this age, all my teeth aren't original equipment, so I use Polygrip to keep that stuff in place. Now, if you're familiar with Polygrip and baby powder, they're both a very fine white powder. And they both occupy like the same space in my medicine cabinet. Last week, I couldn't shit for 4 days, and all I could taste was baby powder. So you guys figure that stuff out. A lot of the walking I do involves my dogs. I have two. Anybody have dogs? I have two standard poodles. They're beautiful and freshly groomed. They're beautiful animals. I was walking them the other day, and this woman comes walking towards me, and she's staring at them. And as she approaches, she says, "They're beautiful. What are they?" I said, "They're dogs." She said, No. What kind of dogs?" I said, "Well, they're poodles." And she said, "Straight poodles?" I said, "Listen." I said, straight, gay, bi, we don't care. We love them all just the same. But that one right there, that one will hump anything. I think he's a pansexual. If you own dogs, you know that you give up any right to privacy that you ever had. We've all had that experience of backing up to the toilet, sitting down, and Libby comes barrel-assing through the bathroom door, just to supervise the activity. She usually has some good input, but anybody ever have their dog catch them masturbating? No guys, I can tell you, no guys have ever raised that hand when I asked that question. And being a guy myself, I can kind of understand that, And there's two reasons why guys don't know if their dogs ever caught them masturbating. First is guys don't give a shit, right? They're gonna get the job done if the Pope's in the room watching them, they don't care. The second reason is, most guys can't come with their eyes open anyway. All right, that's as dirty as it gets. So as I've gotten, my friend John is here. John is my spiritual advisor, that's what I call him. The judge calls him my probation officer, but so that's not important right now. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more spiritual. I belong to one spiritual group. We've taken a vow of poverty. We're called parents. We have one prayer. It goes something like this. Join me if you know it. Oh, for the love of Christ, what were you thinking? Now, the other spiritual group I belong to suggests that we make a list of people we harmed and we become willing to make amends to them. part of this process involved my dad. I had to do this. I went through this process with my dad. Now, dad is in his 90s, and he doesn't hear quite as well as he used to. Right, Mom? So I'm going through this process, and I'm kind of explaining some of the things I did as a child that weren't really right. It's like, Dad, I stole your Penthouse magazines. And he said, what? I said, yeah, Dad, I drank the whiskey out of your whiskey bottles and watered them. He watered them back down. He said, huh? I said, I tried to barrel through. I said, Dad, I had sex with Gina Carlucci in the back of your Pontiac. He said, come again? I said, yes, I was a much younger man back then. I went to school to be a tailor. A lot of people don't know that. I flunked pants. I used to make suits for funerals. Nobody wants to bury a good pair of pants, so made a decent living at that. Speaking of funerals, I went past the Pillsbury Funeral Home the other day. All I could picture was the next of kin walking up to the corpse going, waiting for one last tee. And later the same day, I swear to God, later the same day, I went past the Hope Cemetery. I can see weeping willows and this and that, but what the hell kind of name is Hope for a cemetery? I mean, if you're driving up to a freshly dug hole in the back of a black station wagon and you haven't, reached your final destination, there ain't no hope. I'd like to think that the afterlife is a little bit more efficient than the DMV. I went to the doctor the other day, and he said I had something called senior Tourette's syndrome. You guys heard of this? No. It manifests itself in the form of randomly blurting out old man expressions. Things like, get off my lawn, or pull up your pants, or go back to where you came from. My doctor had a really, really difficult time diagnosing me. He just thought I was running for president. So I went to see my dad the other day, and I said, Dad, is there any history of Tourette's, senior Tourette's in our family? And he goes, come again? I said, nah, Dad, I'm a much older man now. Thank you.